Morning. Today we're going to be cutting ground beef patties. You'll notice you'll want to look at the box to make sure what you're getting. That's 75% lean ground beef patties, and we're going to cut some ground chuck patties also. So always make sure you look at the box. So you can see right on the tubes it tells you 80-20 fine chuck. So that's going to be our ground chuck patties. You always want to make sure that this is made out of fine grind, that it doesn't say coarse grind on the box or on the tubes. We only need a few ground chuck patties today. I'm just doing this as an example of how you can cut these into patties. But for customers, they can buy these whole tubes in the stores also, and they can cut them down for themselves. Or you can just cut it into however much ground beef you want to freeze and stick in your freezer. I usually take just an end slice off. I leave the plastic on when I'm cutting patties because it holds the product together. And you want to cut these about a ½ inch or so. You can put out some thick ones, but typically if you put out very thick patties, they're going to set out there because it's going to have a higher price point. So you can see how thick I'm cutting them. That's all the patties we needed for the case today for ground chuck. So what are we going to do with that? Well, you can take that back and put it into ground chuck that you're packaging up for the case. Grind it. We tray these at this store in 2S trays and in 7S trays for family packs. In the 2s, we put 2 to a package. We take the plastic off as we're doing that. Sometimes when you're cutting these patties at the processing plant, fat will have gotten caught on the tube that puts this into those plastic rolls, and fat will be in here. So you need to watch for that. Of course, we want to take that off if it's got chunks of fat in there. We don't want our customer getting something like that. We're going to go ahead and cut our 75% patties. You can see it's labeled on there. It says fine grind. Again, I just take a little bit off that end, and that can go back into your ground beef, into your trim lug. At home, if you're buying one of these to cut, you can take those 2 ends and make one patty out of it. But again, we cut the 73 or 75 into about a ½ inch or so that they're not too high priced for our customer. You just cut it straight down. Leave the plastic on when you're cutting it. You also want to check out the date whenever you're looking at making these. You don't want to use something that's outdated. Go ahead and tray these up. Take the plastic off. Try to get them back to round if you've mashed them in. Some stores have patty machines, but the majority of stores today don't have them. So this is the easiest, simplest way to get patties out in your case. This is a big item, especially over summertime. So it adds profit to your case because, again, that's a service the customer doesn't have to do by being able to just walk in and buy some patties. And you can tell a difference in the chuck that I just cut and these. I'll do a comparison here before we're done so you can see it. The rest of these we're going to put in 7S's, which is a family pack at this store. We'll put 4 or 5 in them. Some stores we use a 25S tray. You can put 6 to 8 in one of those trays. And even though you order fine grind, you always want to check your box because sometimes they get in the wrong slots at the packing houses or at the warehouses, and you might get sent coarse grind, which obviously doesn't look as good as that. It'll have larger chunks of fat and meat in the package. So it's important to know the difference. Make sure your plastic doesn't get in your trimmings or anything else. Get it all off and throw it away. So you can see we have 75% in ground chuck. You can see the difference in the color. The chuck is a lot leaner. So you want to make sure that you mark your stuff onto your racks so that your wrapper knows what they're wrapping. That's how we cut ground beef patties.